Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Melf's Musings. I'm Ken Horowitz from Sega16.com, and today's topic is one that surprises me that I have to talk about it, and that's the console war. Amazingly enough, this is a discussion that is still going on. You have people all over the internet who are still going on about whether or not the Genesis is better than the Super Nintendo or vice versa, and it surprises me that people are still as passionate about this topic today as ever. You know, those of us who grew up during the console war or were around back then had to live through that firsthand. I mean, you either had a Genesis or you had a Super Nintendo. That's all you had, really. Maybe if you were lucky, you had a Nintendo Entertainment System or a TurboGrafx, but most of us only had one console. So you defended it. You know, it's what you loved, it's what you had. So you protected it, stood up for it. And that was great when we were kids, but now, 20 years after the fact, for people to still be waging that war, it makes no sense to me. You know, you would think that those of us who were around at the time, 20 years later, would have matured enough to the fact that we would understand and respect the strengths of both consoles, and be able to own both consoles, and have the best games on either one, you know. And those who grew up afterwards, who came later, the younger people today, through emulation and the retro gaming market, you know, you'd think that they would be able to get the games they want, you know, rather cheaply, so they'll be able to play all the games on all the systems instead of having to pay $60-something for them like we did. So I don't understand why this is happening, why people are still talking about it. That people have preferences, of course, that's perfectly legitimate. Everyone has their preference. I mean, my preference is completely public. I mean, yeah, I run Sega16.com. It's a website devoted exclusively to the Sega Genesis and its add-ons. But I don't do it because I think the Sega Genesis is the best console. I own a Super Nintendo. I own a Nintendo Entertainment System. Like I said, I own just about every Nintendo console except for the Wii U. As soon as that has some games for it, I'll buy one. But I run Sega 16 because it's my favorite console. And I want to go now and look at all the stories behind all my favorite games. I want to talk to the people who made them. And I have been given the chance to do that for the last 10 years. And it makes me love the console, appreciate the console even more. And I wish somebody would do that for the Super Nintendo. I would really like to read about the games and the development process behind these games. You know, if you want to talk about which system does things better for you, that's fine. But to say which one is better than the other, I don't honestly think we can sit and choose a winner. As much as I love the Genesis, because there are just certain things that each console does better than the other. You know, you want to talk about music quality. People go on about how the Genesis sounds tinny and it doesn't have a really great sound chip. You know, and I have to take issue with that because yes, there are games on the Genesis that sound like complete crap, but there are games that sound excellent. I mean, that sound awesome. It all depends on who was running the music, you know, who was running the sound. You know, you got guys like Yuzo Koshiro. You take games like Rocket Knight Adventures and Midnight Resistance. These have excellent soundtracks. Anything Technosoft, excellent soundtracks. So there's lots of great music on the Sega Genesis. It all depends on who made it. It's not the console itself. It's like on the Super Nintendo. I mean, on the Super Nintendo, you have games that have incredible music. Anything made by Squaresoft, for example. Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, the Final Fantasy games. Those games just, they're beautiful. The soundtracks are absolutely beautiful. But then you have games, I mean, like Ys 3. I mean, they sound like farting trumpets. You know, I mean, you have music that just doesn't fit the console well. I would personally say that orchestral soundtracks sound better on the Super Nintendo, whereas techno and FM synth sound a lot better on the Genesis. It's a matter of personal preference. I mean, you're going to talk about graphics and colors. I mean, do we really need to go into that? Yes, the Super Nintendo does more colors than the Genesis, but the Genesis makes very good use of the colors that it has in most occasions. Sometimes it's a little bit too purple for my own taste. Batman Returns and Check On, I'm looking at you. But for the most part, they make very good use of color. You know, Super Nintendo made excellent use of color. There are games that have beautiful artwork, but then there are games where you have bad guys wearing purple overalls and pink overalls. Why? Because the Super Nintendo can do that shade of pink. You know, they just use the color because they could. It's not the system, but who's behind it. You know, it's like with quality of software. I read an article recently where the writer said that the Super Nintendo won the 16-bit war because the lack of quality software on the Genesis in 1994 just increased the gap. And that, I almost fell out of my chair. I was like, I mean, that's just plain ignorant. That's just plain ignorant. I mean, ignorant not as an ignorant stupid, ignorant as an ignorant uninformed. There were so many games that came out during that period on the Genesis that were just incredible, you know. And I think that a person should go and try out both systems. Hell, at this point, the way things are, you should have a couple of these systems. Get yourself a Nintendo. Get yourself a Sega Master System. Show that system some love. You know? Have a Genesis, a Super Nintendo. Get yourself a TurboGrafx. You know? I mean, people should be able to appreciate all the systems now. There's no reason for anyone to be picking sides and thumbing their nose at people who like you know, an opposing console from the era, because it's over. It's done. Everybody should just enjoy the games now, you know? So, yeah, there you go. Nothing really special today. I just wanted to give my opinion on this. I've been reading a couple of articles and seeing a couple of discussions online that just made me, you know, sit back and like think, what the hell? Why are people still having this discussion? Go out and buy both consoles and play as many games as you can get. If you want to complain about anything, you know, complain about the prices of some of these games that prevent you from enjoying them on the actual hardware. But as for the machines themselves, come on, we're above this already. You know, somebody get out there, make a Super Nintendo 16 site and get the full story on all the great games for that console, because a lot of us, you know, who own everything that we can get our hands on want to know the story behind all these games, and there's no reason for us to pick sides. It's all about the games, man. So just go and get what you can get, as much as you can get of it, and have fun. Alright, so that's it for today. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thumbs up the video. Leave your comments below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Whatever. And head over to Sega16.com and check out our articles and reviews and interviews. You won't regret it. Okay, and so until next time, take care.